did you check the speed camera network when you first started this investigation, which would have been 4 or 5 months after the alleged crimes? She goes, yes. The detective who's just said no to the judge is now shrinking by the minute into his chair. In June 2018, there was a lot of publicity, newspapers, radio, about an alleged drive from John Groats to Land's End, and that I was responsible for setting the record from John Groats to Land's End in 9 hours and 36 minutes. I was then arrested, the car taken off me, a lot of my property was seized, and then I was released pending investigation. While I was released pending investigation, I went over and did the C2C Express in a 1974 right-hand drive Jag that we shipped over, and had an amazing experience, and just fantastic. Just met all these friends and it was just brilliant. And then when we came home, I had a very big envelope arrive. Bearing in mind, it's been probably a year and a half now since my arrest. I've been charged with 6 counts. The first 3 are dangerous driving. 1 for dangerous driving with an unauthorised fuel cell. Dangerous driving on roads within the United Kingdom. Another dangerous driving within roads of the United Kingdom, to sort of double it up. The 4th one was perverting the course of justice by using electronic equipment to evade speed cameras. Then there was the 5th one, which was perverting the course of justice for using fraudulent number plates to evade speed cameras. And then the final 6th one was using a fraudulent number plate from my home, ironically. So they make me drive all the way down there to plead not guilty. So you plead not guilty at the magistrates first, and then they'll take it to Crown Court, because these charges can't be dealt at magistrate level. They have to go upstairs, as they say. So that Christmas was quite a sober Christmas there, because it's happening. Thought it would get brushed under the carpet, that there'd be no further action. No, there's going to be a lot of further action. So it's January sort of 2020 now, and it's my first sort of hearing at Crown Court. Now, this is very frightening, really, because it is how you'd imagine it in the UK. The judges wear the big wigs, the red robes. They put them very, very high up. That the courtroom's very sort of old and in mahogany, and it's all quite serious. And there's so much ceremony and sort of pompousness, and it's very sort of as you'd imagine. These are the courts that do, terrorism, murder, the most despicable crimes. This is the highest court in the land. In fact, the court next to us, there's only 2 courtrooms, is a murder case. So we're there, and I have to now plead guilty or not guilty to the charges in front of the Crown Court judge. So I'm in this glass dock with 2 security guards. The prosecution are down there. And the judge is a long way away, but I can clearly see he's looking directly in my eyes. And he says to me, if you are found guilty of these charges, there will be grave consequences. Now, I already knew there was going to be grave consequences, because the charges I was facing, perverting the course of justice, it can be life, depending on the circumstances. My barrister friend and stuff was saying, look, these charges, I'll be real with you, you could be looking at anything between 3 and 6 years behind prison. And you're like, that doesn't sound like a lot, right? But it is when you've got to do that time. My wife was pregnant, heavily pregnant at the time, and then COVID hit. And as we all know, the world started to shut down, including the courts. They were closing the courts for the first time ever. And this had massive repercussions. I think this can only be a good thing, right? There's a backlog of cases building up. They're going to look through them and they're going to go, this is a silly case. Let's just get rid, right? We've got murderers to deal with. That did not happen. So in around sort of June time was the first time we were allowed back into the courts. At that point, we've been served the evidence, we've given a defence statement in, and we're fighting this, right? Their cases doesn't really make sense. And we have an admissibility hearing with the judge. This is a new judge that's come in. The old judge wanted to hang me. You could just tell he was ready to just don't waste time with the trial. Let's go straight to the hanging. But this new judge is looking at it, and he's looking at it with fresh eyes. And we have an admissibility hearing on key bits of evidence. Now, in the press, there was a 9-second piece of video of me driving my car in the top of Scotland past a police car, right? They were saying it's from the day of this alleged record run. And I was like, I've been to Scotland loads of times in that car. How can you say it's from that day? Well, the police car we passed, they'd managed to find the police officers who were sat in that car. We're like, oh, okay. So we look at the statements, and both the officers write statements in the top of Scotland. I don't know how they found them. And they go, we were there on the day doing speed enforcement. I'm like, okay, this isn't looking too good. We have no recollection of any Audi S5 passengers that day. So they say, well, maybe they missed it. And we go, well, how often do they park there, right? This video could be from any day. We do a freedom information request. Turns out the police park there daily. And we're like, it's from a different day. So we're arguing this in front of the judge. And the judge says, well, how can you say it's from the day? Well, what's the relevance of this video? And the prosecutor says to the judge, well, There's beeping in the car, my lord. The judge goes, well, could be a microwave for all you know. And the prosecutor's like, well, I doubt it would be a microwave. And he goes, let me stop you there. I go to the Nürburgring twice a year. I have radar and speed camera detectors in my car. If it's not from the day, it's not relevant, and I'm ruling it inadmissible. And just draws a line through it like that. Of all the judges in the land, I've got one that goes to the Nürburgring twice a year, right? So my barrister, who was sort of representing me at that time, a friend of the family, sort of said, will you be reserving this case to yourself? Because, like, we need this judge. We need the Nürburgring judge. And the judge leans back on his chair and he rubs his shoulders and he looks at me and he goes, Yes, I will reserve this case to myself. And that was the moment when we thought, there's a fighting chance here. We're going to get a fair shake. Because up until that point, it was just like, we're just marching me off to the gallows. So that was a good day. We realised then, right, we're going to have a fighting chance here. The prosecution are really scrambling now to try and get this case to go through because they've argued and fought for this case and they've spent so much money on it. It's like, we have to get a conviction here. We can't drop it now. So much money's been spent and arguing it through with the COVID and everything like that. It's like we have to get a result. So things push on now. We're sort of moving into October and a trial date set for December. So it's the start of December 2020. And at this point, I've gone, right, we're getting very technical here. We've had experts brought in. We've got a GPS expert, speed camera expert, ex-police. They're all writing reports. Paperwork is building up. So the prosecution's case, they had cell phone evidence. So they tracked a cell phone that was registered to me at the top of Scotland at around 8 o'clock. And it was plotting down, connecting to the masts through the top of Scotland down towards the middle of England. And then it disappears for the English side of the trip and then appears attached to a mast near Land's End at around the time that this alleged time would be sort of there. There was also a GPS tracker that had tracked the alleged vehicle. So every 15 seconds, it was given a speed and location all the way down. Now, they'd had warrants and subpoenas or whatever they're called to access my bank details. That's how they found the GPS. That's how they found my cell phone data. And they're plotting this all on a map. So it's like, right, well, we need GPS experts and cell site experts and speed camera experts. So the guys we found, awesome guys, they come in and they're looking at it and they go, this is the ropiest case I've ever had to deal with. They're just basing it on a printout. Like this spreadsheet could have just been made and printed out. It's just an Excel. Where's the data handling? Where's all the certification with it all? And the prosecution are like, it is what it is, right? So we start looking at it and cross-referencing it. And what we start to see is the speed cameras, there's 105 speed cameras from the top of the country to the bottom. The A9 has the second longest average speed camera section in the world, about 115 miles, and that's an average speed. So you enter it, you have to stay below the speed limit for that 115 miles, otherwise there'll be a picture taken. And then the other ones are fixed Haydex speed cameras. You know, you can't jam them, you can't interfere with them. If a pigeon flies through quick enough, they're going to be activated. And they're on the motorway and they're calibrated within an inch of their life, home office type approval, the highest standard in the world. And there's no activations, there's no images of a car going through the country. So the GPS data, we're looking at it and we're cross-referencing it with the speed camera, and the GPS, if you're to believe it, as the prosecution are saying speeds of 130, 140 through the middle of England on the highway, past these cameras. And you can go down to the detail of going, unless that car can brake quicker than a Formula One car and accelerate quicker than a Formula One car, it's doing 130, 140 through these speed cameras. And then the average speed cameras in the top of Scotland, well, it's saying it's averaged nearly 90 odd mile, 92 mile an hour through a 50. There's this sort of thing where we're going, well, are they just going to drop these speed camera activations? Do they have them? Well, what's going on here? So they're sort of skirting around the subject a little bit. Our experts are saying, well, I would trust the speed camera network in the UK over this $15 a month GPS tracker. But the prosecution are heavily relying on this. They're going, this is it. It doesn't put anyone behind the wheel of this car, whichever car it is, but they're saying this is proving the speed, it's dangerous. So we end up in this situation where we walk into sort of the trial, and both experts for the prosecution and for the defense have said, right, this is agreed. Nothing can interfere with those speed cameras. If a vehicle is in excess of the speed limit at that time, there will be an activation. Now, if the number plate's missing, dirty, it gets sidetracked for human review, so it's not automated, for a human to look through these to go, oh, it's a dirty plate, or the AI system's not quite read it properly. They're all in agreement of this, and yet we're kind of like, can you not see the conundrum you've got here? You're saying the car's doing this sort of speeds through the country past these cameras, but you've got no evidence from the cameras. So the expert is sort of saying, well, they didn't check them in time. They'll only store them for, say, 2 years. And after 2 years, they'll get deleted. So he's put this in his report. And we're like, well, bring this letter out. And it's from the chief of police saying, we have checked the speed cameras 6 months after they heard about it, which would have been 6 months after the alleged crimes had happened, and there was no activations. So we're in this situation now where we walk into trial and we need to get an answer from the prosecution categorically. Are they saying they checked the cameras and there was no activations, or are they saying they checked the cameras too late and there was no activations? So we walk into trial, and the first thing before the jury got in is, kind of housekeeping, and I'm now representing myself. Now, representing yourself at Crown Court is quite rare. In fact, when we looked it up, the Department of Justice have a little bit of guidance for judges and prosecutors on how to deal with litigant in persons, how they call it. And it's basically just saying that usually they have some sort of mental illness. And that was the only advice we had, was that if he represents himself, there's usually some sort of mental illness. So we're there, we stand up, the judge is there, it's all very ceremonial now, and it's like, this is it. It's been 2.5 years pretty much to this point. It's just all we've been thinking about. So we asked the judge, can we get a categoric answer? Has the prosecution and the police searched the speed camera network in the UK? And the detective who had taken over from another detective stands up in the court and says, we have not. And the judge goes, well, there you go, that's the answer. And I'm like raging about this. I'm like, whoa, hang on. They can't proceed to trial on there's no evidence because we didn't check, but there could have been if we'd have checked it. No evidence is no evidence, right? So this doesn't go down well with the judge. So it's the first impression, and the judge is like, I will not be undermined in this court, banging the gavel. My buddy who's with me sort of like pulling on my kind of belt strap to sort of like just sit down, right? So we're like, okay. So like, there we are. We're just gonna have to push on. Right? They're saying they've not checked them. This is a huge hole now that they're going to rely on to try and explain away these problems. So the first witness comes in, and she's given evidence from the embassy in the Middle East, because she was the detective who led with it, and now she's moved over to the embassy in the Middle East. Prosecutor asks her the questions. It's all very pleasant. And then I ask my question. I cross-examine her. And I ask the question, did you check the speed camera network when you first started this investigation, which would have been 4 or 5 months after the alleged crimes? She goes, yes. The detective who's just said no to the judge is now shrinking by the minute into his chair. The judge is like writing some notes down. And I said, we've had experts since your departure who have all agreed that nothing could stop these cameras being activated, and there's no activations. Yet the GPS is saying speeds of upwards of 100 miles an hour past these cameras. And she says, well, some of these would have had wet film in them. Like old cameras in the UK have literally film in them. Now, obviously, we've spent 2.5 years researching this case. I'll tell you where every one of those cameras are, what the serial numbers of those cameras are. And I said, you're quite right. Out of the 105 speed cameras, there's 2 that have wet film. How do you explain the other 103? And she's like, it's just my opinion. And the judge kind of looks at her and says, excuse me, if the experts have said this, would you still stand by your opinion? Just my opinion. So it went well. I think it went well. We got that first witness out of the way. We're pushing on now. So how it sort of works in the UK courts is the prosecution will present their case, and then at half time, the judge will decide whether you can, in sort of certain circumstances, submit a no case to answer. Say, look, that case is so poor, the jury can't decide on it. The judge can just throw it out under certain circumstances. So the witnesses have come forward. We've cross-examined the police officers involved with the investigation, and we come to the half time. Now, we've presented a no case to answer, and it's quite a clever sort of legal precedent, which was R.V. Milton. You need to look this guy up. He was a police officer in the Midlands in the UK, and he was driving at 155 miles an hour on the M54 near Telford, and the black box in his police car obviously logged it all, and the police decided to prosecute the policeman. And he argued that he was testing his driving ability and that he was an experienced driver and he was evaluating his skills. And what came from it was this statute, basically, that speed alone is not sufficient for dangerous driving. Police officers and ambulances will break the speed limit to respond to emergencies, and speed alone is not enough. Now, I was charged with dangerous driving. The reason why I was charged with dangerous driving is we have a 6-month statute of limitations in the UK. So they only found out about it about 8 months after it happened. So they were basically trying to negate that by saying, we'll do dangerous driving because we can negate the statute of limitations on speeding. However, it's a much higher threshold. So our argument at half time was speed alone's not enough. Even if what they say is true, to drive fast is not enough. The roads allegedly were good. There was no traffic. It was the middle of the night. So this was our argument. Now, the prosecution hadn't heard of this case or didn't think this case would be applicable. So we hand in this case to for no case to answer, sort of a submission. And the judge goes away to his chambers to look at it, and he's a bit of time. And he comes back and he sits down and he's like, When I first heard of this case, I was reminded of R.V. Milton. The prosecution are scrambling now, thinking, what is this case? And they're looking at it because they're thinking there's no way this is getting thrown out at half-time over some technicality. And he looks and he says, I have given it some thought. Speed alone is not sufficient for dangerous driving. However, to drive that length at those speeds, as the prosecution allege, would be considered dangerous from a fatigue or endurance point of view. And in my mind, I'm like, let me introduce you to some guys over in the States, right? This is just pop to the shops for them. And he says, in my view, there is a case to answer and we'll proceed with the defense. So we're like, right, okay, we're trying everything. So it's like, right, we're going to have to go the whole hog now. So we're now relying on the jury's verdict. So we have a jury of 12 that have been brought in. You don't pick a jury in the UK, they're just randomly selected. However, when they walked in, it did look like VINwiki had sent a busload down. It was just young lads all coming in. There was a couple of ladies that we called the Karen, all face masked up, and she was giving me the evils. So we then come to defending the case. Now, I had no witnesses of the fact. It was just some expert witnesses. So I had my GPS expert and my speed camera expert, but I had no witnesses of fact. So they're cross-examined. It's all very, very technical now. Cell site, GPS, the whole thing sort of comes to a head now of the jury are looking a bit bemused because the speed cameras that are Home Office type approved are saying there's no speeding. The speed camera experts are saying, I'd find it bizarre that if the prosecution say what's happened has happened, there wouldn't be at least a few out of that 105 that would have caught a car. They sort of say, well, maybe he slowed down for the cameras. And I'm like, well, that's not quite a crime now, is it, right? If you're slowing down for a speed camera, that's basically what they're there for, right? What you're trying to say is if you're driving at, say, 80 on the motorway in the UK and it's 70, you have two choices. Speed through the camera and take the ticket, or slow down and pervert the course of justice and go to jail for 12 months. So the judge wasn't having any of it. He was like, no. Everyone slows down for speed cameras. So they're in this sort of area where they kind of, are you trying to say this speed camera network's wrong? The system that you use to prosecute millions of motorists up and down the country every day of the week could be wrong? This was a whole can of worms they did not want to open. So it was all smoke and mirrors and just sort of skirt around it. So there was this big hole and the jury is sort of like, But then they're like, but why would he have this fuel cell and lights and all this stuff in the car? Because when they seized the car, it was fuel celled up. It had all these lights and sirens and detectors, V1s and all this stuff that is so alien in the UK. So there was this, credible question of like, right, even though it doesn't matter why I've got them, the jury deserve an answer of why. On the C2C Express, I'd met Sergeant James Snow, and he's involved with the Cannonball Memorial Run charity, and they raise money for fallen police officers. It's a completely unbelievable charity, and something so for us over in the UK is just like, wow, it's something we don't really think about on a daily basis. And I got on really well with him, such a nice guy. And when I was in this sort of predicament, I was like, I need to be able to explain why my car is it is without me just saying why it is. And I thought, who better than a sergeant for the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department to explain why the car would be like it is. And he wrote this letter that was so good that it's framed now in my office. And he basically explains that I was invited in 2018 to do the C2C Express. And as I say to the jury, I couldn't go because the police took the car off me and I was arrested a few weeks before. And that I did go in 2019. And cars in the US usually have fuel cells, and radar and laser defense systems are common in the eastern states due to illegal speed traps. And I'm explaining to the jury because I'm giving evidence at this point, so I'm in the dock. And obviously because I'm representing myself, it's basically a monologue because there's no one on my side to ask questions. So I'm explaining this sort of the C2C and everything like that within reason, and the prosecution are trying to object to this because they do not want this letter to be read in court because they've had it for a few months and they realise, oh, right, this explains so much and we can't rely on this. Well, yeah, but why would he have that? And this amazing letter from Sergeant Snow explains why you'd have the fuel cell, the laser defense systems, and he even goes on to say, and I'm humbled to say this, more people should be like Mr. Davies, and signs it off with his CV where he's like, to the UK, he's like a Hollywood star. It's like SWAT and California Highway Patrol. It's like he was a movie star. The UK police must have thought he was fake. They must have checked him out because there's no way. They were thinking, when that dropped on their desk, that this can't be real. And we submitted photos in the jury bundle of Sergeant Snow with William Barr, the Attorney General at the time. They're looking at photographs of me and Sergeant Snow, and then Sergeant Snow with William Barr, the Attorney General, and we're shaking hands, and it's just beautiful to see. And you can just see the jury kind of going, oh, oh, that makes sense. And then like the lights and everything's like, I've done rallies around Europe. Here's photographs of me in Monaco with the signboard and everything like that. I give evidence on the stand. I'm cross-examined, which is very uncomfortable. And I think the prosecution thought that me bringing the Jag over was a lie. So he's trying to ask me questions like, well, how would you bring the Jag over? And I'm like, I'll talk about this all day because I did do it, right? So I'm explaining. He quickly backs off it because he realizes he has actually taken a Jag to the US. This isn't just some fairy tale. We've tendered all the evidence. We're on the Thursday of the trial. We've started on the Monday. And the judge is basically saying it's now closing statements. Now, unbeknownst to me, there's a little like old school law written into the law books where if these criteria are sort of satisfied, the prosecution don't get a closing statement. Now, this was news to me, right? We didn't know about this until the prosecutor was arguing with the judge about it. So if you represent yourself at Crown Court and you tender no witnesses of fact, so they're witnesses like expert witnesses, it's at the judge's discretion whether the prosecution get a closing statement. So the judge is saying the defence, Mr. Davies, will have a closing statement. The prosecution will not under Part 25 of the Criminal Procedure Rule. And the prosecutor stands up and he goes, Your Honour, it's at your discretion. And the judge turns to him through his spectacles and go, I know, you're not having one. Like that. And we're like, oh my God, this is huge. Because bearing in mind, they've not really heard from the prosecutor since probably Tuesday evening, Wednesday. So I say, Your Honour, if I could request that I give my closing statement tomorrow, because it's about 2-3 o'clock now. And he looks and he goes, yes, okay, court adjourned. So I've got all night to basically prepare some sort of closing statement, thinking that now the jury are literally just going to hear me talk tomorrow and then go and make a decision. So just hoping that memories are short and they'll just hear me last. The prosecution aren't happy about this, but, it's a nice little bit of luck on our side. So that night we go home. Press is really kicked off. From day one, there's been a court reporter there. Day two, the paparazzi are outside. I've been snapped by the Sun newspaper walking out. Day three, there's all press in the gallery. And although you can't see what's happening in court, you can listen in. So we've got the Press Association, BBC News, and you can see these names all dialed in, listening to how this case is going. So there's a lot of eyes on it now, and people are sending me links online, and I'm just ignoring because the last thing I want to do is start reading the press and how it's going and things. So I'm sitting there with my friend who's been with me. I'm just saying it's done, basically. All I've got now is my closing statement, and I'm just thinking, this is going to end badly. Like, my child now is 8 weeks old, my first child. Things are getting pretty serious now. There's nothing else I can do. And the way we were feeling was the prosecution were going to try by hook or by crook to get this case over the line. And there's just no way of knowing. You can't Google anything. You can't phone anyone to go, how do you think it's going to go? You have no idea. So I'm trying to just write some sort of closing statement or something. And it's like, it just can't do it. It's like I'm just sat there like, oh my God, this is getting pretty heavy. And at the time, I'll be getting notifications from VINwiki and it's like, oh, Arnie's just the COVID runs and Arnie's done this. And it's like, and I'm just there going, oh my days, I was born in the wrong country. And like, it's all getting pretty serious. So we get into there, the jury are all sworn back in and they're all put in. And I go up to the dock now to basically do a closing statement. So he says I've got about 25 to 35 minutes. Now that is a long time to just talk without sort of waffling on. So I look at the jury for the first time. I'm sort of really looking at them now and sort of, engaging with them, and I explain and we're looking through and summing up the case my way, really, saying that there's no one who puts me behind the wheel at any time. The cameras haven't gone off. There's no evidence to show that this even really happened. We're relying on a ropey GPS tracker that's been debunked by the GPS doctors and all this sort of stuff. I do my closing statement, talk for about 25-30 minutes, explaining every key bits of the case and basically pulling out all the holes in the case, how it doesn't make sense. I thank the jury and say, whatever your decision is today, just thank you for bringing this nightmare to an end. And then I turn to the prosecutor, who, we've got to know quite well now, I guess, trying to be, amicable and that, shake his hand. And he was a fellow Welshman as well, which was quite cutting for me. So shook his hand and wished him well, whatever the decision may be. And now we have to go and just wait in the waiting room. How long? Again, you can't Google this, it's just how it is. So we're sitting there waiting and an hour passes, and on the tannoy it says all parties in the case of the Queen versus Davies report to court 1. And this is like, next time I'm walking to this room a free man, I could not be leaving this room, because in terms of sentencing, if I was found guilty, it was likely the judge would say, I know enough to be able to sentence him here and there. So we walk back in and I'm just about to go into this dock where I'd have to be for sentencing, because it's all the full ceremony and everything. People are bowing when they walk into the room who work there and stuff. We've not reached a decision yet. The jury have some questions and we're like, oh, what could the questions be, right? So we sit down and there's a bit of a technicality here where they can't be given this letter that we've read to them because it's been redacted heavily, because the witness wouldn't turn up for court. He'd gone missing, a prosecution witness, which was ideal for us, and I think we know why he didn't want to turn up. And on the way up to Scotland, I was actually stopped speeding. I was caught by Scottish police in a car, and I was stopped for speeding. I was doing 84 in a 50, I think, and I was caught with a Pro Laser 4 gun, clean, no problem, signed the ticket, no problem at all. Now, these police officers were contacted because these are the only guys who see me in Scotland around the time of these alleged crimes happen. Now, what was interesting about it is, on the route to verdict, the first kind of question was, if you are not sure that Mr. Davies drove his Audi S5 vehicle, you must acquit him of all charges. This was the first question they have to get past. If you think he did, go to question 1, which is, do you think he drove dangerously, and so on and so on. So the fact that we're being brought back into court because the jury want to read the statement from this officer, we're thinking they can't answer that first question, and the only guy who sees me in a car is this officer, the officer who didn't turn up to trial, funnily enough, and we'd had to redact things that I disagreed that I'd said on that night. So the judge read it out to them instead, and read those things, and I'm sorry, there is nothing of note or modification in the car, and that's it. The jury go, okay, thank you. Back to the deliberation room. So it's like, oh, back into this room, just pacing around. It's torture, honestly, the worst feeling imaginable. We're thinking, trying to pick positives out of it, but also not trying to raise your hopes. We're like, oh, well, they can't get past question 1. This could be good. This could be good. But also, I'm also trying to prepare myself for, you're not going home for Christmas and, get your overnight bag, or not your overnight bag, it would be your 6-year bag, and to go to prison. So another 3 hours pass now. We're 4 hours in. And funny enough, it's coming up to 5 o'clock on a Friday. And we come back into court. And I go into the dock. They've reached a verdict. The jury all come back in. The foreman's chosen. Obviously, we don't know who he is. He stands up. Have you reached a verdict? Yes. Is it unanimous? No. Okay. So in the UK, majority would be 10 or more one way. So we're like, right, okay, well, there's either, I'm thinking, God, is it 10 people want to convict me or 10 people want to acquit me? So in count 1, how do you find the defendant? Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty. We're like, prosecution are like, well, this is all a bit of a blur now because it just becomes a role, because it's like in my head I'm quickly doing the calculation like, well, if I'm not guilty on the first one, it has to be a home sweep, right? Count 2, not guilty. Count 3, not guilty. Count 4, not guilty. Count 5, not guilty. Count 6, not guilty. Like that's like, oh my God, right? The judge just turns to me, bearing in mind we've had months in court and we've been here all week. You're free to go, Mr. Davies. Bang, gets up and leaves. And you're just like, oh, okay, right, all right. Security guard's like, good lad, because he's been following the trial the whole time. You go get your car. I have to walk through this door on the right to get my phone, because they've taken all my belongings off me, because if I'm found guilty, it's basically strap him up and put him in the paddy wagon and take him down to the holding cell. So I've taken all the stuff off me in case I do a runner. I don't know what they're thinking. So I have to go through the prison door first, which is a real surreal feeling. So I leave with the press are all there, all writing, prosecution, the detectives, everyone's all there. It's a full court. I walk into this room, right? I'm like just in shock, right? It's middle of COVID, and I give this security guard a big hug, and he's like, oh, but we hug it out. Don't know who he was, what a guy. And get my phone and stuff. I walk back into the glass dock. Everyone's gone, right? There's my buddy there, standing there, and the judge is gone. There's just the clerks, and the prosecutor is still there, and he's just staring up into the corner there and won't turn. I come out, I give my buddy a big hug. We walk out into sort of the reception foyer area. Press are like, you want to make a comment? You make a comment? You want to make a comment? And I'm like, whoa, jeez, right. So we walk back into this waiting room to like order a taxi or something. And the press are like trying to come in and stuff. My buddy's like, he's not making comment. He's not turned into my PR guy. I don't want to see any press. I just want to go home, right? So it's all settling in and everything like that. We order the taxi, and because cameras aren't allowed on court grounds, nowhere near them, they can literally only be at the door and the stairs that come down. So we're at the top of the stairs. We're looking down and we can see tripods and loads of feet and everything. And my buddy goes down there and looks, and he's like, there's live camera crews there and news vans, satellite stuff. And it's like, we're going, no, that makes sense. Murder in court too. The verdict's just come through. He's guilty. Be about that. It wasn't about that. It was about this run, right? The taxi pulls up. I run into the taxi. They're all there. Flash, 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 flash. We all jump in the taxi and go down the road. Get back to the hotel. The receptionist at the hotel has been following the trial all week in the papers, the local papers and stuff. And she's like, oh well done, like that. It was brilliant because they were like sort of, we get stuff printed every morning at the local print house. So they were literally seeing the evidence coming off and they were like, best of luck today, mate, best of luck. So we get there, sit in, and it's like, wow, just a moment now, back in this hotel room. So I say to my buddy, I said, look, we're 120 miles from Land's End. I said, it's like 6 o'clock now. I said, let's not drive home. Let's end this where it started. So we get in the car and we drive all the way down to the Land's End Hotel, and we have a steak dinner at the Land's End Hotel. And we're sat there and it's just surreal. And then on the news, it's a live, like on ITV News in the UK. And they're like, Tommy Davies has just been cleared of all charges at the Crown Court. Back to you in the studio. And it's all like proper doom. We're like, oh my days. Radio 4, all the radios were putting it on. It's like, Tommy Davies has been cleared of all charges. It's like gone out of hand, where it's like newspapers, everything. And the murder that had happened, the murder trial, same week, nothing. I never felt so bad for publicity almost, because it was like this guy had been stabbed and it was a real serious local murder case. He's probably got a tiny little piece in the local paper and it's just my stupid face coming out of court with a face mask on, being cleared of all these crazy charges. So the next morning we're there and we get some photographs and everything like that. And I say to this is the Land's End Cafe where people finish or start these pilgrimages. And there's the signpost, very much like the Portofino. And I say to him, what is the fastest time between John O'Groats and Land's End? And obviously I've got a face mask on. And the guy goes, well, funny you say that. He says, someone's just been cleared of all the charges last night for doing it in 9.5 hours. And I'm like, whoa, no way. Oh, anyway, nice to see you. See you later. Send a postcard home, get in the car, drive home, and just like sit in the car for that journey home. Just unbelievable. So a bit of a warning for all these American guys. We've always sort of thought about like, what would happen if a prosecutor in Utah or Texas just thought, no, I've had enough. Don't take your phone with you. Don't post everything online straight away. Just picture the worst, because it happened to me. But I was lucky.
Are you looking for the perfect gift for yourself or the automotive enthusiast in your life this holiday season? Well, look no further than Celebrity Machines. They make metal stamped, screen accurate replicas of the license plates that you'll see on the cars in the movies and television shows that you love. They've got almost every one you could possibly imagine. And in fact, if you've gotten one of our Car Trek license plates or the Japanese license plate from my Lamborghini Diablo SV, those were also from Travis. So you may already have some Celebrity Machines license plates hanging up in your garage or in the background of your Zoom calls. But regardless, check them out now. If you go to the link in the description below or use the code VINwiki at checkout, they're going to give you 20% off of your order. So check them out now, get some great gifts, and thank them for their support of VINwiki.